Sam Jackson and Ryan Reynolds? Well, at least we know we won't be running short on animated GIFs anytime soon. That's right, GIF. I made my choice.
Go with God. This man's killed over 150 people.
250, easy.
The Hitman's Bodyguard stars Sam Jackson as the Hitman and Ryan Reynolds as the Bodyguard. Neither one really happy with the situation they're in together. It's supposed to be a fun action comedy, but which side wins out, the action or the comedy? Well, here's 5 things you might want to know about the Hitman's Bodyguard. It's not the action part, I can tell you that. I actually kind of enjoyed this movie, probably more than I should have, but let's start with the negative and get to the positive, because the action in this really is poor. There's several reasons for that. Number one, it's just kind of silly. It's a little bit over the top. Now, I know the movie has an over-the-top comedic tone, but the action itself wants to be both played seriously and also goofy, and that becomes a problem for me. I liked some of kind of the cool action moments. There's some cool action framing that happens here that I liked, but the rest of the action, and there's a lot of it, seems like it's too long. It gets a little bit tedious because it's not doing a lot new. It's not doing a lot interesting, so you kind of get bored with the action scenes. This movie's too long, and I feel like a lot of it could have been cut from those action scenes. Plus, some of the effects during these action scenes, I haven't seen effects this bad in a long time. There's a falling scene in this movie that was probably worse than when like Hitchcock did his falling stuff in Vertigo. I mean, it's just, how do you have effects this poorly rendered at this point of the game? And if they are that bad, just shoot a reaction shot and let us imagine what's happening on the other side, because our imaginations are spectacular quality, but your effects were not. The other negative I have to mention, and I think it's a big one, is once you get outside our 2 main characters, who we'll talk about later, there's nothing in this movie that's worth really paying attention to. I guess I should give a special, I take that back, I'd give a special nod to Salma Hayek. She has some fun moments in this, but everybody else seems to be playing a completely different game. The acting around the edges on this movie is pretty poor. It's not engaging. The plot around the edges is not engaging. If you're in the middle of the center of this film, I really found it fun, but once you get outside of that, there's just a lot of stuff that I don't really care about. You know, one thing that informs both those first 2 negatives is the fact that this is a really simple film. There's not a lot going on here plot-wise. It doesn't take you to crazy new places or make your brain explode with twists and turns. And you know, honestly, I don't necessarily need that from a movie, especially one like this. I think for some people, that'll be a real negative. For me, it didn't bother me, so we're going to give it a yellow. Look, if you're expecting Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're expecting Sam Jackson and Ryan Reynolds to crack a few jokes, you might have a good time. So let's get to the positives. Like I said, I actually enjoyed this movie. I think more than most people will. And it comes down to Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson. Probably mostly Ryan Reynolds. I love that guy. He is so funny. And the 2 of them together, though, I have to say this. I wasn't expecting the chemistry to be as good as it was. The scenes where they are together, bouncing off of each other, laying into each other, pretty funny stuff. I laughed out loud many times during this movie, and even when I wasn't laughing out loud, I was smiling. I had one of those goofy grins on my face. I think it's because they're both so likable, kind of in their own anti-hero way, but the 2 of them together, I thought it was magic. The other reason I feel like this movie worked for me is the writing. It's so clever and funny. Yes, Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson, they are funny dudes, but if they don't have the material to work with, it's not going to be funny. And I feel like this is written well. It's very clever, and especially in a world where comedies are depending more and more on physical humor, whether it be raunchiness or pratfalls. This is a comedy I feel like relied on clever humor. There are a couple of those moments, but for the most part, It's in the characterization. It's in the turn of a phrase. It's in the way the dialogue sparkles and crackles and surprises you. And I love it when the surprise comes from the words that are being said and not just the action on screen. Overall, I feel like The Hitman's Bodyguard, though certainly a movie with a lot of flaws, was one I enjoyed more than I thought I was going to. A lot of that comes down to those charismatic leads and a well-written script. I give it a B-. Thanks for checking out this Your Movie Friend review. We'll get to the Best Ever Challenge here in a bit. Before we do, though, let's connect further. Hit me up on Twitter, Aaron Dicer, Aarondicer. You can give a follow there. Love chatting movies there with anybody who wants to come hang out in our community. That's at Aaron Dicer, Aarondicer. Also, connect here on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'd very much appreciate that. Helps the videos get seen by more people who might enjoy them. Comment in the comments. Give a like, dislike if you have to, whatever the case may be. Interact with the video. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear about it right here on YouTube. Also, if you do the podcast thing, subscribe to our podcast. SiftPop, S-I-F-T-P-O-P. It's a weekly pop culture podcast. Having a blast there as well. And finally, if you've got a few bucks and you really love what goes on here, like $3 every month, send our way through Patreon would make a huge difference. Plus, there's some really fun perks for you doing that. I've been absolutely floored by the support that you're giving at Patreon. Patreon.com/yourmoviefriend. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for voting for me in that way with your dollar bills. It means a lot. All right, on to the Best Ever Challenge, which is where we name the best movie ever in a particular category. You're also going to try to guess what my choice is. Let's go with Ryan Reynolds movies. The best Ryan Reynolds movie ever. He is one of my favorite actors who has been in a lot of what I would consider not my favorite movies. But he does have some good ones. I'm going to have to go with the one, let's just call it an underground classic. Take a guess at mine in the comments. You can leave your choice there as well. And as always, I'll give you a few extra seconds here at the end. Just hit my face when my face pops up after I clap. My face.